Welcome to Alchemist X Innovators Inside, the podcast where we explore the world of corporate innovation and dive deep into the minds of thought leaders, high achievers, and risk takers. I'm your host, Ian Bergman, and together we'll uncover the challenges, triumphs, and secrets behind successful innovation journeys. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, an industry veteran, or simply curious about the ever-evolving landscape of innovative ideas and what it takes to put them into practice, this is the podcast for you. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. JD, welcome. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Ian. It's a privilege to be here.
Awesome. Well, for our audience, JD's the founder of Vox QI, a cost-effective solution to customer acquisition challenges in the digital age. With AI-powered content marketing, businesses can easily connect with the right customers, uncover topics that capture their attention, and maximize resources with high-quality content. So basically, QI helps businesses save time, energy, money, and increase engagement, conversions, and revenue. Okay, that's really cool. We're going to learn what that means. But for now, just again, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, it's a privilege to be here, and it's a privilege to be a part of Alchemist Accelerator. One of the best experiences I've had so far, definitely.
Well, that's amazing. So you're a founder, you're doing really, really hard things. And, that's how we got to know you as a person, as an organization, right? Through the context of building your company kind of from the beginning.
It's really been a marathon. I know that, the backstory is of interest to you. So it really began back in 2008 when I was graduating from college. I'm originally Colombian. So I was born in Colombia, born and raised in Colombia. And I graduated first from anthropology with an emphasis in consumer culture. And then I graduated from economics with an emphasis in behavioral economics.
Awesome.
Before I graduated, I started consulting for a couple of professors that were consultants to the private sector. And they thought it was interesting to have somebody who had the sensibility to approach business problems from a cultural perspective and from an economical perspective. And that was the real start of my career. And what we're doing with QI and Vox QI is entirely related to that. The ability to approach user-generated content from an anthropological perspective and then translate that into actionable insights, be it product development or communication. Yeah, I think that, that's an interesting starting point.
It is amazing. And I'm glad you carried us back to the deep, dark ages of 2008, right? The technological world was rather different then. I'm certainly dating myself when I say I remember that and long before. But, the meaning of artificial intelligence was very different. So we're going to get into how you're doing what you're doing. Let's talk about what you're doing today. Let's talk about the challenge you're solving in the world. What's the one-liner? What's the problem that you're solving in the world that is driving you to found this company?
So the one-liner, the working one-liner, because that keeps evolving, of course, as we add features and we add clients, but we're building brand equity based on personalized content experiences. And we basically have built a content intelligence platform, which is, I would say, one of the first platforms that has been devised with the updated sensibility to what content is today with the evolution of artificial intelligence. So we have 4 modules. Each one stands on its own, but then we have what I'm most proud of is the flow. We start with a module that is extracting consumer insights, particularly for consumer goods companies, in real time based on social listening, multi-channel social listening. And we're using very interesting NLP and proprietary models to extract these insights. Then the second module is a creative module. So we streamlined the creative journey. What was once using 3-4 different apps, maybe 3-4 different specialists, we're integrating the content creation that starts with inspiration through a generative platform. And then you can test those messages within our platform. And you get brand health, policy and compliance scores. It helps, reduce risk, reduce costs. And then finally, we optimize the content based on the flow, on the engagement. And everything is really about qualitative intelligence, which is, what QI stands for, where everything revolves around the content and the user. And we're using AI also to automatically tag the customers with the content that interests them in several features, like the format, the topics, the semantic categories, and we built a layer on top of the quantitative analysis that you can get from Google Analytics, but we're giving you like the whys and the substance.
Got it. So you're doing a lot, but you're solving a problem that, as you say, it goes back to 2008, but probably goes long before, right? Like personalized content experiences that represent the messages people want to get across, be they brands or otherwise. That's a holy grail that goes back as long as we've been thinking about marketing and content. What's happening in the world now that makes this the right time to found and build your company?
If you're in San Francisco, you've been several decades living the digital economy. In reality, we're only just, reaching like a democratization of people doing everything online. So that's one thing. As this happens, multiple platforms appear, and they appear, they keep on appearing, in which basically people are there with their attention, and the companies are trying to reach these people in these platforms, and we're getting a lot of burnout from the ads. People don't like ads. We're a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of information.
We tune them out. Yeah. Like I barely see them, right?
So on the consumer side, on the user side, that's definitely a problem. And I think that one of the good things that's that we're working on is that we're minimizing the noise, because personalized information is better than generalized information. And then brands on the other side, platform costs keep rising, marketing budgets are getting tougher to see an ROA, especially if you're not one of the leading massive global companies that already have the attention and have the channels and everything. But if you're a mid-market company or a small company or a startup, competing for attention is costly, very difficult, and you're many times blaming the marketing agency, you're blaming when it's really a reality that is just there's too much information out there. So personalization is key, and I think that in many levels businesses need to start personalizing both the communications and products.
So where might a potential customer or a consumer see something that went through QI? Like where do they get exposed to your work, and how? What does that look like?
So our two key formats are articles, so text, blogs, articles, and then we're entering strongly in video. So a lot of the brands that work with us really enjoy our short form video scripts. Part of our roadmap is to including some generative AI capabilities to do the videos right there and then. That should be up and running, hopefully by next year.
So you're gonna be all over my TikTok feed?
Of course, we already are, but on the social listening side, So many of the articles that are informative that brands are posting today, they will get personalized with dynamic creative optimization. And then it's all about making lives easier for the brands, and then improving the quality of the content for consumers. We know that people love to search. We love to just go online and find answers by ourselves, instead of being like completely targeted. Buy me, buy my product. We like figuring things out,
of course,
and that's where you're probably you're going to see the content that we're able to create.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I think are coming together in this that I think are really, really interesting. Obviously, significant data sets out there about, my preferences. I'm scared to think about what Amazon knows about me, right? What Google knows about me. But that's us. We all know.
Or your bank.
Well, exactly. My bank. Well, seriously, or all of those random services I've given access to my bank for the convenience of analytics or something. So we all know that it can appear like magic, right? There's the myth of the always listening microphone because ad targeting works so well. So there's data. Then generative AI is the buzzword of the month or year, right? The ability to dynamically create content. It sounds like it's all coming together in a way that lets you create something that knows me and is relevant to me on the fly, trending toward instantaneous. Is that a direction that you're headed?
100%. That's it.
Is that scary?
Well, there's always the fear of change, and particularly in the United States, there's a lot of conversations around privacy. Also in the European Union, and it makes sense that we have journalists, activists, politicians making sure that our private information is protected and that privacy is key, for markets, for everything. So, but on the other hand, there's an opportunity to serve customers better. There's an opportunity to reduce the noise. There's an opportunity for brands to create products that are more aligned with what they actually need instead of buying what there is. There's also the opportunity of improving communication. When you deal with top brands or global brands, there's always the aspect of regional sensibility and local sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Latin American, and Latin Americans for the rest of the world are probably one person or one customer persona. And you'd be surprised. Well, it's not surprising that it changes drastically within countries, within regions, within cities.
Of course.
Just like it does in the United States and Europe. So that regional sensibility also has to do with, personalization of the messaging, personalization of the products. And it essentially, if well done and well regulated and well executed by the brands ethically, it will amount to better products, better services, which in a good world, which I think that, we have the capacity to live in a very good world, it will amount to improvement in quality of life. So we shouldn't forget that. And the other thing is it is very easy to opt in, opt out. So if you are a conscious consumer, which is also key in this day and age, buying sustainably, fair practices, brands that are more careful than others, and products that are better manufactured than others. These are all things that more and more consumers care about. So if you provide relevant information that is not really making you more vulnerable to attacks, but it's just based on consumption preferences and unsatisfied, unmet needs, then essentially, if you opt into that, you're going to have more power to the consumer, if that makes sense. Everything that we've ever done is people-centric. So I understand the fear, but I advise, consumers that are cautious about these things to remember that there's actually people out there that really want to provide better products and services, and it ends at that. And it's, I think it's an honorable thing to work in.
I think actually that faith in humanity, right? Like people are good. People are generally trying to do the right thing, no matter their motivations. I actually think that is an often overlooked counterpoint to technological fears.
Yeah.
And concerns. It's a really interesting statement.
And if there's secondary effects, corollary effects that one cannot, even, what's the word that I'm looking for? You cannot forecast them, or you don't know what's going to happen many times, because that's the way that a complex society like the one that we live in works. But if it's not solving a problem for people, there's a very low chance that something is going to, be successful. It's, the way that the market economy works is it's really quite transparent. If it's good for me, why buy it? If it's not good for me, I'm not going to buy it. And then there's certain secondary effects that you cannot control, but then it's all about improvement, constant improvement.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit, actually, because it's constant improvement, but you hit on something really interesting. Like what is innovation? Like fundamentally, innovation is something new that gets people to change behaviors, right? Like that is a litmus test of is innovation relevant in my mind anyway. Um, what behaviors are changing because of your product? The agencies, the brands, the marketers, what are you seeing change, and what's hard about that? Where are you seeing resistance to that change?
Okay, so I've worked a lot with product development because of the what I mentioned. That a lot of what we did was business intelligence for the purpose of product and market development early on. And when you're developing products, it's highly complex. Especially in larger organizations, and there's also complexities when you're launching something from scratch. But there are several departments involved. There, you've got the product developers per se, working on the R&D departments. You've got the marketing folks. You've got the financial department who needs to fund it or find how you're going to execute the project. When does it fail, or how do you determine if it continues to get funding? And then there's the consumers. The fact that we can automate and we have the capability of having intelligent automation, the more as we progress. Of course, we know there's where we are right now, but then there's also where we're aiming at, to having like this innovation flow, having the capacity to analyze all this data, all these users, and provide relevant insight that is based on large numbers of data from consumers that are missing something in terms of the quality of the product, access to new products. So having that automation makes everything more cost efficient, and it is supposed to help with in improving the quality of the products per se. I have a lot of experience with CPG, with developing new beverages, developing new snacks, developing new food and beverage products, and historically, and I welcome any challenge, but I've been in it. It's mainly the products come either from the scientist that has a new idea, and I want to come up with a new flavor. I want to come up with using a new ingredient that was promoted by the ingredient company because they have a new ingredient, so they wanna I'm using a harsh word, but push that ingredient, sell that ingredient.
Sure.
It's many times it has been driven either by the buyer from the big platform, the Walmart, the Costco's, the Whole Foods, or by the scientists that they have something new and they want to try it. What we're changing is the feedback loop. If we understand what people, if we put people-centric approach, if we understand what people are not liking about the label, if it has to be organic, it has to be best practices. There's a lot of added sugar, and sugar sells. That's a great example of what supply-led product development it entices and what demand-led product development can be. If you know for a fact that people have a certain preferences in real time, you can drive product development based on that consumer feedback loop, instead of what the people from the ingredients are selling, or the buyers at these large supply chains are seeing that is rotating quite a bit. So what we're building has the capability of making the job of that customer feedback loop on the marketer side or on the R&D people side much easier and much more based on people-centric design. And what we're talking about, the changing the way that people works, changing the way that people come up with products, and also on the consumer side, changing the way that we communicate with brands that we want something else, something new, something different.
So let me interrupt you, and I apologize for that, but I want to hit on that because you used the word change like 3 times. People hate change, usually. How's that for a broad stroke statement to unify all humanity? People are change resistant. So what's the resistance you have to overcome in either the brands or the product development lifecycle?
And there are certain industries like food and beverage where change is much more difficult. From the actual sales process that we are working on, it many times has to do with the amount of people involved in the decision making. and the amount of tools, software tools that are already available.
Yeah.
Some of them, are from previous generations. So you have to probably use 3 or 4 different tools, and you're used to them, and you have hired and you have invested so that people become specialists in these tools. And so you have like a way of working that is already established, and you have budgets for that, planning for that. You have your human resources strategy based on that. And I've seen it, like AI is really, affecting pretty much everybody. It's going to be, affecting almost everybody in different ways.
Sure.
So I know that people, it's probably a cliche, but people compare the AI boom right now with the internet boom in the 90s. This is one of those changes that is going to affect everybody. So we're getting resistance from probably people that are scared, because now because of data, you can do things that you probably would have asked them to do it, and now you can just do it automatically. But I'm optimistic about the fact that it's really an evolution of the trades. We're still going to need people. People are going to start, doing new things. So people are going to start educating themselves, and that's going to drive society forward. But then also another friction has to do with the old tech. I think that's also important to mention. AI is changing the way that people develop products, and many of the products that are already there in large companies are slowly becoming more obsolete.
Sure.
Because they have invested a lot in it, and now integrating proper machine learning to different modules of their existing solution could be costly. So designing with these products with the notion of the new tools that exist and the ones that are coming, it's also something to consider.
Well, and that's really interesting. The kind of the human and then the technical sunk cost elements. Your note that change is coming, I think, is important, right? Like, we're recording this, we're a couple months into a creative strike in Hollywood, right? And I think anyone in technology, I think, is looking at that and saying, wow, there's a real tension between the idea that new technology obsoletes jobs and the idea that new technology enhances productivity, right? And makes people be more creative and more productive. And that's playing out all over society right now in many ways. But this obsolete technology thing is kind of interesting. Are we in like a typewriter situation in some of these companies as they think about data analysis tools, and they have a whole supply chain set up to feed ribbon into their typewriters, and that's getting displaced? Or what's going on when you say that there is this technology in the research and production line that you need to consider now?
I can speak only to my experience, right? And so I hate being generalistic. Forgive me if I am at any point, but this is a conversation, of course.
Oh, it's okay. I love being generalistic and taking broad, sweeping statements. I'll let you be as specific as possible.
But if you were going to develop a manufacturing facility or a technology for food and beverage, and let's say today, be in relation to what it was, let's say, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Most of the equipment that you'll find in manufacturing facilities can be 20 years, 15 years, 10 years ago.
Sure.
Well, you're going to design it a little bit different, because now you have capabilities with machine vision that can help with maintenance. You have the ability to streamline data much more efficiently. You're probably going to need, and instead of having 3, 4 people, you're probably going to need just 1 or 2. And that's just one example. You're probably going to need, instead of needing people for the lines, you're going to need people for the front office. So how we design products today, it's definitely different than the way that we designed products 10 years ago, and that's a trend that I'm willing to commit with in the next 5 years. That's one of the things that's really going to change, is new equipment. IoT is definitely important in the way that we're approaching product development as well. And from the communication side, from the digital side, the content, which is where we're specialized, same thing. Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, they changed the game in terms of how you buy, how you
Yep.
how you list your products. 10 years ago, a marketer was one thing. Today, a marketer is another thing, even if they sit in the same chair and they have the same objectives of growing revenue at the CPG company or at the tech company or at the financial company. New skills.
I feel that. I was a marketer at one point in my life, and I don't know that I know how to do that job anymore. It is changing, even it. Okay, so I want to talk just a little bit more about this customer conversation. So you walk into a potential customer and you say, look, I can just dramatically tighten the loop between your understanding of your customers and a personalized bit of content and message to them, or, something to that effect. How does that conversation go?
Many times, many times it begins by, okay, but what does that mean?
Yeah. Always super fun for an entrepreneur to hear.
Yeah, but at the same time, you get more slick and you get more capable at answering it. And one of the best ways that I've managed to explain it is, if you're in marketing, you probably know by now that with the major platforms, I don't want to name anyone in specific, you can target people based on their interests more than based on their, shopping history.
Of course.
Isn't that, something very valuable? So we want to bring you that power without the major platforms. You can do that with your own channels. You're going to be able to know this person is interested in traveling. This person is interested in sports. In what sports? Maybe soccer, maybe basketball. So just based on that zero party data, first party data, that is really just about, okay, this person liked this person engaged with this person is interested in gardening. So why don't we communicate with them based on their interests instead of just saying, hey, buy these 50% off?
Yeah.
So, that's just one example. We were working with a financial services company. Did I tell you this already?
No, tell us.
Financial services company, and they were looking to increase credit card usage. So we sent a couple of test campaigns with, internally with our tool, with a sample of their customers. And we send content about financial education for adults, financial education for children, leisure, so stuff about traveling. We send and then we send some tests with like functional variables like pricing and rates. In a matter of minutes, or let's say 24 hours later, when we start getting the actual engagement metrics, it comes up that the most engagement had to do with traveling. So we had qualitative insights about Japan, the Amazon, the beach, the several others. So it was very easy for the financial services expert, to see, okay, my customers are looking for a vacation, and we can make their dreams happen. And it's not really about the rates. It's about buying more free time and being able,
It's the psychology and the emotion. There's always an underlying emotional benefit or an underlying benefit.
and because of semantic tools like the one that we're building and that we have, you're able to capture that in a non-intrusive way. These are just, people that are enjoying one content more than the other. And then the beauty of it is that, since you know that's the topic that you like, maybe you can, product wise, reach out to an airline and create a joint venture, and exchange this for that, and provide a better service, a better credit card, a better points plan program for these customers that enjoy traveling. Let's make traveling easier for them. Let's make it cheaper. That's probably what we're.
That's real.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I'm optimistic about it.
That's awesome. So along the way, you've been hitting at this for somewhere between 2 and 15 years, depending on sort of how you measure it there. What are some lessons that you've learned that have shaped you and maybe your company?
I'm gonna hit some of my colleagues first.
Yeah, they're the best.
I guess one of the I'm gonna probably get in trouble for this, but I'll be as diplomatic as possible. I learned early on, I confirmed early on a saying that we have in the anthropological community. If you want to see a lion hunt, you go to the African savannah. You don't go to the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
So that has a lot to do with, where you learn about your customers and what they like. You always want it to be spontaneous. That's the ideal way for you to learn about your customers. You always want to be proactive in many ways, but you also want to be able to react to customer feedback. If they're replying to your social media and complaining about something, service-wise, product-wise, now we have the capability of knowing in real time and gathering all that data and managing it and presenting it to the right people so that they can take either immediate or short-term actions. So the fact that we have such a rich environment of in real-time interactions between people and brands, that's one of the reasons why we created this, a tool that allows you to understand user-generated content in real time so that you can create actionable insights product and market-wise.
Okay. I didn't hear anything that's going to get anyone in trouble there. Where's my get in trouble story?
Because there's still, the trend of focus groups. Focus groups have a very specific and limited use.
Yeah.
And many market research techniques are more for liability purposes than more like really people centric. And my respect goes out to all those researchers that are really people centric, and most of them are. But the tradition in decision making in business probably requires the use of some methodologies that might be time to rethink.
Yeah.
And focus groups and other types of methodologies could be one of those.
It is a really interesting metaphor now that I've had a chance to kind of wallow in it a little bit, right? The idea that you're using technology to take your customers out into the Serengeti, out to Ngorongoro Crater, right? Watch their customers in the wild. Yeah, I think I see the trouble here. I just called all consumers either like water buffalo or tigers, but or I guess lions. But it is really interesting, right? The idea that technology has enabled us to be close to customers, to observe people in their quote unquote natural habitat and react, which has so many parallels, right, to the work that we do as founders, right? Trying to be really, really close and observant to the needs of our customers. And so we're kind of extending that. That's a cool metaphor.
Yeah, and it rings with truth. This is based on many years of experience in product development and such. And I want to reiterate, some of the things that I've learned. Product development is hard. It's really, really hard, and it shouldn't be just coming up with a new flavor or or a new package size. So one of the academic approaches of my work is qualitative, quantitative analysis of quality of life. The implication there is that you can understand quality of life from a qualitative perspective and from a quantitative perspective. There's a lot of work and literature around it. Swedes are great at producing quality of life literature, Canadians as well. There's a lot in the United States. And there's also the implication that since you can measure it, and you can also learn about the perceptions that people have about quality of life, because that's an added layer of complexity. It's not just, what the government measures, but it's also what the people interpret about what quality of life should be.
Sure.
And what we know is that quality of life, it can be directly influenced by products and services. With better products and better services, people feel better. And, I'm circling back to my initial thought, but, essentially that's what we're aiming at. And we can improve product development because of the tools that we have right now. And I'm very optimistic about the fact that we can sometime, soon, hopefully sooner than later, we can have more personalized services and products instead of generalistic and standardized offerings that adapt to people's income, to people's preferences, to people's regions, to people's, interests. That's probably around the corner. If we succeed, we're definitely going to be an agent of change in that direction.
Well, that's amazing. And honestly, I love that statement and the sentiment, right? With better products and services, people feel better. And we are around the corner from technology enabling that much tighter connection. That's really, really wonderful. So, we're coming up on time here, But I want to talk a little bit about your founder journey. You are building a company. What thoughts or advice would you have for anybody else out there, whether they're thinking about being an entrepreneur and starting a company, whether they're thinking about being an intrapreneur and trying to drive real change in their organization? You know, what thoughts or advice do you have for people that are considering this journey?
So that's a conversation in itself, but I'm happy to share some thoughts. It is one of the most painful and hopefully rewarding experiences that a person can pursue in the world that we live in today. It's really painful. One quick thought is, I've because of my background in BI and working with all these companies, it's very different. The theory, it's probably, again, a cliche, but seeing it from the outside and living it, it's an entirely different thing. So what I mean by that is I think that it has a lot to do with character, the character of the person. You have to be resilient and you have to be able to receive a lot of criticism, even from your closest colleagues and advisors. And that's not easy.
Sure.
Having people tell you that the word that you picked is stupid and that the the idea that you're pitching sounded lame.
Yep.
So what's your value proposition? What's your differential? That's painful, man, because it's you in a certain sense. And there's many teachings and learnings and wisdoms out there about you have to be detached from your product. But I want to see how detached you can become from your product. It's in many times it's like a baby.
Yep.
So people telling you that your baby is not handsome or pretty, and that it's slow, and that it's difficult. So from the ego side, from the resilience side, from the character side, there's something to be said there. Which the corollary comment to that is, if you have that, I am optimistic as well, and I think that you mentioned this. Innovation is all about change. I think that if you want to make the world a better place, I personally think that entrepreneurs are much more powerful, and they should be more powerful, I'm getting political here, than politicians.
Yep.
If you want to change the world, build something. I'm definitely on that train.
I'm nodding in agreement, and you saw me on video here draw my breath, and then it looked like you were going to say something else. But I'm with you. I think that's a wonderful sentiment, and it balances both the impact you can have with the real challenges. Well, we're coming up on the end of our time, and I know you're a busy founder. You've got a young family. You've got a lot you're juggling. For those that are interested in keeping up with you and with QI, what's the best way to follow you?
I've been trying to hoard JD Rico in every in every platform. If you want to reach out, LinkedIn is probably the best medium. So at JD Rico or /JD Rico. And then for everything related to QI and Vox QI, one of the tools developed by QI, you can go to voxqi.com. voxqi.com.
Amazing. Well, you heard it here from JD Rico. Follow him on LinkedIn. Find him on every platform that is replacing X, we're calling it now, and everything else at JD Rico. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, and I want to wish you absolutely the best of luck as you continue to grow and scale your company.
Thank you for your time, Ian, and thank you for everybody's attention.
Awesome. Have a good one.
So that's a wrap for today's episode of Alchemist X Innovators Inside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you found value and insight in today's discussion, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. Don't forget to share with your friends, colleagues, or anyone who is passionate about corporate innovation or just curious about great ideas and practical insights. Until next time, I'm Ian Bergman. Thanks for tuning in.